So, why are there flat earthers? I find conspiracy theories absolutely fascinating. Not so much the individual theories, but the fact that they exist at all. It's pretty obvious to me that the CIA is actually behind all conspiracy theories. It plants the conspiracy theories out there to destabilise the population, divide and conquer. I mean, what could be more obvious than that? But people nevertheless grasp hold of these conspiracy theories wholeheartedly. They invest their entire life in these conspiracy theories. All of their passion is directed into them. And it's hard to imagine that they can be dissuaded from believing in them. One of the most curious of all the conspiracy theories, though, is the flat earth theory. How in the 21st century, in the year 2024, can people still sincerely and honestly believe that the earth is flat? Now, I'm not going to go into the details of the science and pseudoscience behind these ideas. That's for other people to waste their time on. What really interests me is why people believe this idea in particular. How do they come to hold this belief? I think there are a number of factors involved in this. One of them is a general dismissal of science. People these days don't trust science. I think in many ways science, unfortunately, has gone beyond the ability of most people out there, people like you and me, to actually understand. It's all become so very complex. Climate science is complex at one level, but then you have theories like quantum mechanics, relativity, all of these things that seem to go against common sense, that go against our basic observations of the reality around us. Well, once that seed of doubt is fed into the populace, there are going to be those people who just reject the whole notion of science. They prefer to believe their own eyes as they understand it. Flat earthers are often amongst those who will say, "No, I will not believe anything that I cannot test myself." I'll come back to this a little bit later because it's a curious thing to say about the flat earth hypothesis. One of the things that's curious about particularly flat earthers is that they have a high degree of confidence in their knowledge of science, which is pretty curious because studies have actually found that they often have the lowest actual knowledge of science. It's a very bizarre circumstances where the less you know about a subject, the more confident you are in your abilities about that subject. This is actually given a name. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I think one of the best examples of the Dunning-Kruger effect in action is Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump considers himself an expert on pretty much everything. And it's a measure of his lack of knowledge, I think, that he considers himself so clever, so intelligent. So while paradoxically many flat earthers actually will dismiss science, they actually try to use science, really pseudoscience, to prove their point of view. And these theories often become far more convoluted even than things like the quantum theory, to try to explain things like gravity, for example. Of course, one of the options is that you just don't believe in gravity if you believe in the flat earth. And one of the explanations for what we experience as gravity is really like being in an elevator. There's no force pulling us down. What's actually happening is this flat earth on which we stand is actually going upwards very quickly and accelerating at the rate of 9.8 meters per second, which is, of course, the force of gravity. Often people who are asked to explain why they believe in a flat earth often will say that, one, it's common sense, look around you, the earth is clearly flat, and two, that they just have a gut feeling. And of course, gut feelings have become very important these days. Bugger the science, bugger the facts. If I have a gut feeling that something is true, then that's valid, it's automatically valid. And social media has helped amplify and perpetuate these kinds of ideas. And once you start to explore, of course, something like a flat earth theory, if you go into the YouTube universe, for example, if you look at one video about the flat earth, you'll be fed multiple videos about this, and probably other conspiracies will be fed into your feed as well, because it thinks you're interested in these things. The algorithm starts to generate things that it thinks you will like as well. So all of this just goes to reinforce this point of view. You may not even have had this point of view before you started looking at these flat earth videos, but once you do start looking at it, it all seems so very convincing, and there seem to be so many people out there who believe this, and maybe even the odd celebrity thrown in to give it credibility. So you get sucked down this rabbit hole, and YouTube constantly reinforces it for you. Probably if you've clicked on this video with flat earth in the title and flat earth in the keywords, you'll be bombarded now with videos about the flat earthers as well. I do apologize for that. So if you do begin to go down this rabbit hole, then suddenly you find yourself part of a community. And it's always good, I suppose, to feel part of a community, to feel that you're part of a group of people who share your ideas, who share your commitment to something. So there's that social feedback as well. Your social needs are being fed by this community of flat earthers. I think it also doesn't hurt to imagine that you're part of some kind of elite, that group of people who only this group of people really see the truth. They really understand what's going on. That's a bit of an ego boost to think that you're part of this special group. Some people I've seen talking about flat earth simply don't like the idea that we're on this ball of rock barreling through space. And you'll see them holding this ball in their hand, a little globe in their hand, and thinking, how could we possibly be on this barreling through space? I mean, the idea makes them physically sick. So they reject the idea. They feel more secure if they're on a flat surface. Spinning around. What a horrific idea. Here we are in this ball of rock spinning around. It's enough to make the head spin, isn't it? So it's much nicer to think we're on a nice, stable, flat Earth. It feels much safer that way. So again, this comes down to a feeling that they have. A feeling that it's much safer on a flat surface than it is on a spinning globe. Of course, part of the problem is that they also reject the idea of gravity, which flat earthers, as I've said, often do. When you look at conventions of flat earthers, a little bit of the cynic in me thinks that maybe some people have also seen this as a commercial opportunity. Because there's a lot of merchandise, of course, that you can purchase at these conventions. Flat Earth t-shirts, models of the flat Earth, whatever it may be. There's money to be made in being a supporter of the flat Earth. One of the things that I think flat earthers have in common with many other holders of conspiracy theories is that they really struggle to explain why anyone would be maintaining a conspiracy that the Earth is round. And here their arguments become very vague and waffly and, of course, contradictory often as well. Similar with the moon landing, I can't think of anybody who's ever been able to say, well, why would they fake moon landings? Oh, also, incidentally, you'll find that that conspiracy theory and a whole bunch of others actually get muddled in with the flat Earth thing. They kind of mutually reinforce each other in some way. Why anyone would maintain this conspiracy that the Earth is actually a globe spinning through space, how they would do it given that we travel so much, that, well, maybe we haven't been in space, maybe that's all fake as well. I don't know, I've never heard any satisfactory explanation for this, or how you would get so many people involved in this conspiracy and who would willingly maintain this conspiracy and not break ranks with the conspiracists. In a way, this brings me back to an idea that I had, that I mentioned earlier, that people who believe in the flat Earth theory will often say, no, I will not believe in anything that I cannot test myself. The odd thing about this particular theory, the flat Earth theory, is that it is something that you can very easily test yourself. It's not even particularly dependent on science or advanced science. The ancient Greeks in about the 3rd century BC had already worked out, just by simple observations of the world around them, that the world must actually be a sphere. somewhere along the line throughout the Middle Ages, or what it might call the Dark Ages, we kind of lost this idea and went back to the idea of the flat earth. And perhaps this was influenced by biblical fundamentalism too, because there are one or two passages in the Bible that indicate that the earth may be a flat surface. And of course, once the Bible says that, you can't actually believe anything else. So then you have to shape all your other theories around it. That's a given fact in the Bible. The earth is flat. Therefore, you have to explain everything else in terms of that, regardless of the counter facts that may be presented to you. So that's something I haven't mentioned up to this point, namely that there's sometimes this religious influence within the flat earth theory. But it's very easy to demonstrate to yourself that the earth is a sphere. Just hop on a plane and go somewhere else. You'll notice that the sky is different at night. The stars are different at night. You're looking at a different section of the sky. That wouldn't happen if the earth was flat. But maybe people just don't understand what they're looking at. Maybe somehow that's faked as well. But you have to come up with some very elaborate theories to explain how it's faked. You only have to look at the horizon to see what happens when a ship crosses the horizon, how it appears to dip down. People will, in their videos, say, well, I went to the ocean, I looked at the horizon, and it's clearly flat. I don't know about you, but I go to the ocean, I look at the horizon, and it's clearly curved. You don't even have to rely on photographs taken by NASA. You don't have to rely on people who orbit the Earth. You just have to look around and use a little bit of common sense, which is something that flat earthers often appeal to. So it is something you can test for yourself. It is something that you can see for yourself. But once you're down the rabbit hole, you won't see it. Your beliefs shape your perceptions rather than the other way around. But to me, it's all really obvious what's going on here. Really, flat earthers are lizard people. Or maybe demons. Maybe both. They're trying to undermine our confidence in science, you see. In the former case, the lizard people model, it's so that they can conquer us, enslave us, and take all our resources, obviously. If it's demons, it's because they don't want us to develop better science and medicine, etc. They want to keep us in the dark ages. They want to keep us suffering. Or maybe flat earthers are really CIA agents after all, who are just trying to control us.